GP. This is an unstyled John Deere 37.
You gonna take these to the fair? Show them off?
I take them out to Brussels out there, and I don't take them very far. They all run real good. I got them, just that they're dirty now.
I had the chicken. That's what I had. It was excellent. He had the chicken plate. Yeah, it took him like a minute. Yeah, he went back there. I bring home meat. I guess when you go in and eat like that, you have different stuff, can't you?
Yeah, we just ate the plate in the middle room there. You can get in the back, boy, they got it all.
Get warm in.
Yeah, it is. Feel a head on the back of my neck now. Well, I've always wanted to have myself. Not too many in my generation do anymore. Well, Mark, whenever you're ready.
That dog bother you around here? If he gets, he ain't gonna, I don't think he'll bark.
Well, as long as he's not barking, that's not going to be a problem.
I turn him out, and then he wants to bark or something. You turn him, so I don't think he will. If he does,
He looks pretty contented over there now.
well, you watch something.
County in the middle of July, so it's going to get a little bit warm. Again, we're talking to Bobby Wieneke.
Wieneke, right.
Wieneke. Okay. Got to get that right. We start off by looking at the house, and the house dates from the 1850s, you said, Bobby?
I think as far as we can come up on the deed and stuff, around 1857.
And you told me that a couple of generations back, how many people were living in that house?
Well, my grandpa was part of 14 in his family.
And the house wasn't as big at that time?
No, the back part they added on later, and it basically was this front, which you see with the roof, and they used every inch of it.
14, 12 kids and the parents?
No, 14 kids.
14 kids.
Right.
An extended family living in there as well?
Yes, and they lived upstairs, and they had a kitchen on the back, and mainly there were a lot of age differences. My grandpa, when he was a young boy, he had brothers that were, already married and stuff that that weren't, living at home.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let's take a look at the barn then.
All right.
There's a lot of history there.
The barn is about the same date. It was built in around 1857. And as you can see, the harness is still hanging from the generations back, just how they hung them.
Well, let's go ahead and take a closer-up view of that. We could. Go ahead. Okay. Tell us a little bit about what we're looking at here, Bobby.
Well, this is the original barn, probably built in about 1857, 1858, along with the house. The harness is still hanging. The horseshoes are there. Basically, when you hand a farm down over generations, you don't have an auction, and everything stays with the farm. The new generation takes over, and the old stuff still stays. So, as you can see, the pegs in the wood where they put the barn together. So this was a major project in 1857.
And these are some of the timbers you were talking about that was actually brought in, was not forested around here.
Well, these the posts were made here, and then the boards, the floorboards, were always they brought them in on a steamship.
Is that because they took a little bit more refining?
Finesse, right? They had to have a nice sawmill to groove them for to put them together.
What all would they be using this particular?
They would put hay up into the loft up on top. You can see they made a ladder. They split one small tree. They just split it down the middle, and if they put round pegs in the ladder, it's kind of dangerous looking, but it worked, I guess.
Okay, why don't you show us the ladder that you pointed out?
It's right up there.
Would they have livestock in this?
Yes, there was. They would keep their horses over there, and they would bring them over here and put the harness on for their day's work.
Any cattle or pigs in here, though?
They would have. They had another barn a couple 100 feet down below here that they had cattle in. This is mainly the horse barn where they would keep their work horses.
Okay. I mean that ladder does speak a lot of history.
It sure does.
Let's go ahead and I wanted to get a long shot of the Lutheran church, and I know your property is right next to that as well here. Now, I hate to ask you this, Bobby, but I'll ask you this anyway.
Okay.
These harnesses, these horseshoes, this rig that we're looking at here, it's been there for over 100 years.
It's been, yeah, exactly. Probably about 1910 or so, or 20. It was the end of the horses, and then the tractor started.
So does that mean that somebody just never got around to taking care of it, and then after a while it seems like it's too much tradition and it's too much to do with the,
That's right.
the legacy of the farm?
That's too much work involved in the harness, putting the harness on and taking care of the horse, and it was a lot easier to just put gas in a tractor and start it.
Yeah.
And you could get a lot more work done.
And you never got around to putting it away.
That's where it is. It's just hanging right there. That's where they took it off.
Cool.
100 years ago, probably.
What I'd like to do now, I know we're going to see peach orchards from a longer distance, but if we can walk down to the cluster of peach trees you've got right down here, and then before we do that, look in the background and see the Lutheran church.
And that's my house out there, the old house where I'm building the winery.
The house is just to the right of the Lutheran church.
Right, the brick house. We'll go out there after a while. It was built in 1863. Okay, out to the right of the Lutheran church is the two-story brick that I bought 4 years ago. It was built in 1863, and that's where I'm going to make the winery at.
Do you know when the church itself would have been built?
It was built about probably a few years after the house. That would be maybe 65 or so. The farmers got together and they built the church. One donated the land, and the bricks, they were made out of clay, out of the field behind it.
The bricks are made from local material.
Right. My house was made, one of the relatives showed me a hole dip in the field where the clay was pulled out for the house in 1863.
Around here, I would guess that most people were either Lutheran or Catholic.
Yes, Lutheran or Catholic. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now let's take a look at the peaches we've got here. If you can walk over to the peaches, because those look to be pretty ripe, but I thought you had said they weren't ripe yet.
It's going to be maybe another week on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
To go here? Well, tell us a little bit about what we're looking at here.
Okay, you're looking at my earliest peach in this orchard. It's an early glow, and as you can see, we've got 8 rows, and every row is a different variety. This is kind of a miniature of our big orchard. Every row is a different variety. Every week and a half to 2 weeks, another row will get ripe on through the season. So you got basically probably 2.5 months of peaches in this one little orchard to get ripe.
Okay, here's the test for you, Bobby.
Okay.
The first variety in front was what name?
Early Glow.
And then next?
New Haven.
And?
Then the third one is Glow Haven.
Okay, let's walk down through here.
As you can see, they're greener and smaller.
So they're going to put on a little bit more size.
Yeah, it's going to be, like I said, a week and a half on each row.
Okay.
And this will be a Loring.
Loring.
And there is no color in these yet, so you can see that they're a long ways off.
Yeah.
And that'll be Crest Haven, and then I got Early Alberta, and a couple more varieties on the end. Don't really know what they are. I got to go look in my book.
Okay.
So every week and a half there will be another row getting ripe.
Are these mature trees pretty much?
These trees are probably about 6 years old.
And will they be getting much larger?
Oh yeah, they'll grow another 10 foot and a lot bigger around.
So once they get to be mature trees, then the challenges for picking them become much more substantial.
Right. It's easy to prune the smaller trees, and it's easy to pick them. So that when they get older, then they get taller, and you got a lot more pruning and things like that.
But your production is going to go up at the
Right.
same time.
Exactly. The idea behind this is those trees over there they were planted in '93. So a peach tree is only good for 12, 15 years, and we've overextended on that orchard, so the idea is to start another orchard and get them up and then take the other one out and just kind of make a rotation.
It surprises me you've got as much distance between each one of these rows here.
Oh, you'd be surprised what happens when they get bigger. You're lucky to get a tractor through here.
Okay.
We have to keep pruning the sides off so they don't hit the tractor.
So once they get to be full grown, you're not going to be able to walk down this way?
No, this will be done this way. Yeah, you can drive through here now, but in a couple of years it'll be over with.
What kind of maintenance do you need to do then?
I spray under the trees with the four-wheeler, and my dad, he shreds the orchard with his tractor and shredder. And
Shreds it?
Yeah, mows it with the big mower.
Okay.
And he sprays it with the tractor and sprayer. So he's been spraying all summer over here.
You're spraying, obviously, insecticide.
Insecticide and fungicide, and it's okay. This spring we had a lot of wet weather, and we had to spray about once every week or 10 days.
More of the fungicide?
More fungicide, right. Now less rain, and we got to concentrate on keeping the bugs out, the worms.
Does that cause problems for residue on the peaches then?
No, it don't. It don't do too bad. You have to wash your fruit anyway, and we try not to use too many chemicals.
So nothing that the consumer needs to be concerned about?
No, I wouldn't be concerned about it.
What kind of insecticide are you using then?
Yeah, pyrethrin, the new style. It's made from flowers, so it's fairly good. It works good on the codling moth.
The codling moth, is that the main enemy?
That's our enemy, exactly.
And what does one of those things look like?
Oh, it's a little moth, and he lays on that peach, and about every 20 days they fly, and they land on the peach and lay an egg, and then that egg becomes a worm in 3 days, and that worm will go into the seed, and then when you break the peach open, you see a worm inside.
It goes all the way to the pit?
Yeah, all the way to the pit, right.
Now when you say it flies every 20 days, I'm not sure I understand what you mean.
Every 20 days they mate, and then they fly, and then they mate, and then they lay eggs. So there's a pattern to it, and if you put out some traps, you can catch the moths. And when you catch a lot of moths, you know when to spray. So
you wait until they're active, and then you nail them.
then you nail them, exactly.
Okay, anything else we need to know while we're down here?
Peaches are self-pollinating, so you don't have to worry about the bees, and that's one good thing with the peaches. Apples are different. You bees have to pollinate. But
So you need a little bit of a breeze to pollinate.
right. Yep. I've seen a lot of bees in the clover, the white clover here in the orchards. Back where the grapes are at, the bees are just buzzing. So there's a lot of bees around that I can see.
When you're harvesting, this probably falls in the category of a stupid question, but are you using the old-fashioned bushel baskets to do that?
No, we pick in the peck box with the handle.
Okay.
And basically that's easy for the consumer to pick up and put in his car.
So a little bit smaller volume in that.
Right, yeah. And the peaches are bigger. We like to pick them closer to being ripe. We don't have no refrigeration, and not only that, they don't taste very good when they come out of the refrigeration. So we try to get them as close as we can to edible, juicy peaches. So.
And once you pick them, they're going to have a couple more days.
They'll have a couple days, right. And the consumer buys them, and they're tree ripened.
The ones that we saw right at the beginning here look like they are already ripe.
They're close. I think a couple more days, and we'll be picking some of those.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and kind of break this off, and then we want to get a shot of your larger orchard.
Okay.
And that's more of a panoramic shot, is
Right,
it not?
right. It is. It's up on the hill.
Okay, let's go there then.
Okay.
We're now out here looking at an overlook of Bobby's main orchard and vine area. Bobby, if you could tell us exactly what we're looking at here.
Okay, this is 2.6 acres of grapes that I've just planted last year. And that's the peach orchard, planted in '93. There's 5 varieties of peaches over there. And you can see the new orchard we just planted this spring. There's 100 trees in that. So.
Okay, so what I wasn't paying attention to at all is 2 or 3 years down the road is already going to be producing.
Right. In a couple years, those will have peaches, and we might start taking some of these out. If the grapes and the wine catch on, there might be vines over there in a couple of years, but we'll have to wait and see.
Does that mean you are considering scaling back on the peaches and increasing the
right.
vines?
That's what right now I'm kind of 50-50. I got 4 acres of grapes and about 6-7 acres of peaches, and right now we're just kind of waiting to see what happens.
And if you wanted to establish a normal rotation, you'd probably want to be planting about an acre's worth of peaches a year?
Yeah, we would plant some more peaches if we were going to replace this orchard in a couple of years. So.
Did you put the pond in yourself then?
Yes, my dad, he was working for a bulldozer company and an excavating company, and he decided to put the pond in. He was wanting a pond all his life, a big lake, and I said, well, let's go ahead and do it. This used to be, back in the old days, in the 1800s, this was a pasture. It was too steep to farm, and the first time around it was probably a pasture, and my grandfather had apple trees on it. So we planted some peach trees on it back in '93, and we took those out last year. It was too many peaches for us to handle, me and my dad.
Yeah. Well, you realize there are people in the big cities that would pay a fortune for the view you've got here.
That's right. It's pretty nice to be up here working on the grapes and have such a nice view. The church bells ring, and it's really wonderful.
This might seem like a peculiar question, but does the family have a cemetery plot on their property?
No, not on this property.
Okay. What else would you need to tell us from here?
Well, that's about it. I got 3 varieties of grapes here. These are, let me see, I got Chamberson. These are Traminette, and way down there is the Riesling. It's kind of an experimental thing for me. They're kind of iffy as far as the protection zone. And if it gets down to 20 below 0 here, I might not have any grapes left on that lower patch.
The Rieslings.
Riesling, right.
Which is the one that's most familiar to most of us.
Right. It's hard to. This area is kind of iffy on it.
Are the same varieties over in your other location?
No, I got 2 varieties over there that are different than these. I got Vidal and a Limburger that I'm trying. It's a red grape. Same deal on that. This is not really for this zone.
The varieties you have closer to you here, though, is that a less common or a less desirable variety?
It's regularly grown around here. It's a Traminette. And the Chamberson is another one. It's below the hill. It's a red grape. It's kind of common. So I want to get more of a higher class wine. So I'm trying a couple new grapes, and we'll see what happens.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bobby. I think we're headed over to the house now. We're in front of a antique John Deere tractor. We had just been talking about the harnesses, the horse harness and the buggy rig, everything that we saw over in the barn that you had. Bobby, tell us a little bit about this tractor.
Okay, this is the next thing after the harness. This was after they were done with the horses in the early 30s, middle 30s. All the farmers would go out and get them a tractor, and then they would hang the harness up for good. And as you can see, it was iron wheels, and you had to start it with the flywheel. And
you'd actually have to hold on to that flywheel and turn it?
You have to turn it to start it, like this. And it'll start right up, but I don't know how. That's my dad starts them. And he's restoring tractors. That's his hobby.
A labor of love, I would say.
We bought this over the winter, and he pulled the front off and took the pistons out and cleaned them up, and we're just about ready for some paint.
What does this date from then?
This is 1938. Is that right, Dad? 39, he says. So it's really old.
So tractors had been around on the farm for a while, but it took, it obviously didn't come in and everybody converted overnight.
Right.
There was still a sizable percentage, as I recall, of farms that were operating with horse teams, even in the 1930s.
Yeah, a lot of the farmers didn't have money to go out for a new tractor, so they would buy, it took in the 30s and 40s, they would get a tractor and start out with one, and they still use their horses. A lot of them would harrow and mow with the horses while the hard work was done with the tractor, the plowing and disking.
Well, this won't surprise you, Bobby, but historians consider that tractor and automation on the farm is the most important technological advancement in agriculture in the last century and a half.
Right. It was everything was new back then. The tractors, the trucks, the electricity. It was in the probably 45 or so before the electricity came about out here in the country. It was something to see. Everything was changing.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
We are now looking at the home that Bobby purchased not too long ago. Bobby, tell me what it is that you saw about this house that drew you to it.
Well, about 4 or 5 years ago, I was driving by and I seen a for sale sign. I was going to try selling real estate, buying and selling houses. And I thought, I'll take a look at this old place. And I went down in the basement and I came out of the basement with the big beams, and I thought, boy, I got to have this place. So I went ahead and bought it. I paid $34,000 for it. And then I decided, you know, what's an old two-story really worth? Maybe 80. So maybe I'll add a winery and a vineyard and really make it worth 100,000 or more, you know. So that's what got me involved in the grapes.
Well, I hope you don't mind me mentioning there's plenty of work to do on this house.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I thought everybody says start on the house first, but it takes several years for grapes to grow. So I thought I'll go out, I'll plant the grapes in a couple of years, and then I'll come back and start on the house. So
it looks like there's been a little bit of settlement, too.
Yeah, there has. Yeah, it's going to be a project, but I had to take the whole yard down about 10 inches. It was up on the second board on the back there, the dirt level was, from over 100 years of leaves and compost from huge trees in the yard and neglect. There was trees growing out of the foundation, about 2-inch round trees, and took all this down, leveled it, leveled the vineyard, and I wanted it all on the slope. And I sloped it all and planted my grapes, my fresh grapes.
Okay, the ones that are directly behind your back is what variety?
This is a Vanessa. It's an edible grape, and they're turning right now. It's seedless, and the idea behind this is I got grapes planted on the fence. The idea is when the winery takes off, I'm going to have chairs under these trees. You can see the trees are spaced out for outside dining.
Outstanding.
That's, I thought I'd plant trees and the grass and the grapes and work on the house in a couple years.
Now the ones that we're looking at here, the main row, the first thing that jumps out at you is all the damage on the
Yeah,
leaves.
there's the Japanese beetles was in here, just terrible. This was all black with beetles just the other day. And I used a chemical on here with my sprayer. It came out here with 7, and I don't know if I don't think it killed them, but they don't like it, so they took off. And that's all that counts.
Well, that may be what we're looking flying around right in front of you.
That's a small one. He looks like he's maybe a new hatch. They're black with greenish wings. But the other day there was hundreds of them.
And they obviously are voracious eaters.
Yes, they are eating a lot of crops for people, and the cherry trees. They ate all the leaves up on that and the grapes, and I have them over on the other farm. They're in the grapes over there.
What variety are we looking at here, Bobby?
This is a Vidal. It's a white grape. It's kind of a common white grape.
Now when you say white grape, the skin is white?
Yes, it's a white with 2 seeds. It makes a white wine, a sweet, semi-sweet white wine.
I'm ignorant enough about winemaking. Do you leave the skins in the process, or do those get
Not on these. These get removed. You squeeze the juice out, and it's pure white, and just ferment the juice.
Okay. And tell me what you have to do to maintain these.
These ain't too hard to take care of. We just prune them in the spring, prune them all down, and when the leaves come out, the stems are all full of branches. So you have to knock them off and keep them brushed off. It'll do it about 2 or 3 times in the spring and early summer, and you keep those off, otherwise they'll vine over your whole floor.
How difficult is it to train these to work on the trellises?
Well, not too difficult. The second year you get them up on the wire and you take black tape and tie them up.
Now there's 3 lines that you've got in here, but I noticed that you really only trellis the top.
Right, the other ones, this one is to start them. I put one down low and I start him on that and get him tied to that, and then they're just kind of used for balance. But the top one is where all the limbs are at. The weight's on the top one.
Now you were mentioning that you stripped all of these twigs off. Does
Right.
that mean that this thing would really spread out if you were to let it to?
It would be a mess. It looked like a pineapple, I guess you would call it. Kind of like a pepper plant. They grow limbs all across. So here's one right here. If I let that one grow, it would be way out here. So the best thing to do is you knock them off early.
Okay.
Keep them off. And that way you don't have to prune that much the next year.
What are some of the other challenges you've got in maintaining these?
The bugs and the fungicides. You have to spray every couple weeks with a fungicide to keep the rot out. There'll be a rot get in the cluster.
A wet year like we've had this year, does that make a difference on the wine?
No, it's turning hot and dry right now, so the grapes, the clusters are just starting to get tight, and I think we'll be okay.
And the same question is for the peaches here and pollination.
The same, these are okay, they self-pollinate.
Okay. Let's go ahead and see some of your newer planting areas.
Okay.
And talk about that a little bit.
All right.
We are now at a newer planting area for Bobby Wieneke's vineyard. Bobby, if you can tell us what's your intention here in this area?
Okay, this is, I just purchased this over the winter, and this is a Limburger grape. It's a vinifera. It's a German grape, a red grape. And this is probably more of a special grape, going to make some more special wine.
Okay.
More high-class wine, I would say. And we planted this spring. There's probably, I think there's 450 plants here. And last week and the week before, we put in the post. And I strung the wire last week and put in the turnbuckle.
The turnbuckle.
Yeah, the turnbuckle. And
that's
how you tighten the wire. And each post had to get a hole drilled through it. I run my wire through the post. A lot of people staple on the side, but I run it through to keep the plants in the middle, the post in the middle, and I want the wire in the middle. So that way everything's all in line.
And you're tying these up with just common engineering tape?
Yeah, this is marking tape. You get it like Lowe's or Home Depot. You just wrap it around and start bringing the grape up. And again with these, we have to take and cut all these new limbs off. This will grow. These were all bushed out the other day, and we had to trim them off. Here's some of the stuff that we trimmed off of this.
Okay.
Trying to, the main thing is you get a center leader, a straight one, the straightest one, and you want to go up as quick as you can and get it on this wire.
Okay.
As soon as you get it on the wire, then you start wrapping it, and once you get it on the wire and wrapped, it kind of takes care of itself as far as training.
Now, this time next year, you're going to put another wire on the top of this?
Now, this grape grows on this wire about 40 inches.
So it's not going to be as tall as the other one?
No, and I'll have to put some wires down the side as a catch wire.
Okay.
And those are a different style. There's two styles, basically, that I have.
One of the questions I wanted to ask you was what you start with when you plant, and where do you get those?
These came from New York, a nursery in New York.
And it was a twig?
It was a plant with roots about this long.
The roots were that long?
And I had to take my tractor with a ripper shank, and I ripped the rows, and we took a tile spade and moved it around and stuck them in the slot. And that way we had our rows straight and had it deep enough too.
A matter of pride for people with vineyards to have straight rows, I would
That's right. These rows are straight. We used a string, and there's a guy that works for me. He has a knack for straight rows, and I don't know how he did it, but he's got them straight.
Anything particular in terms of keeping the weeds down? I noticed you got a few here.
I cultivated it with my little tractor, threw some dirt over on it, and I'm getting ready to, now that I got the limbs off, I can spray without damaging the plant.
Okay.
So that's the key, is get the plant up off the ground so you can put on chemicals.
And then it's not going to affect the fruit at all?
No, I just use a burn down gramoxone and spray under the plant, just like I do over there under those.
Are you going to be harvesting anything at all from these you just planted this year?
Not this year, no. They'll be next year. Hopefully they'll have some grapes on and we can try to make some wine.
And when would they reach the peak of production?
In about 3 years, they'll be at their peak.
Well, the peaches had, you said, I think about 12 years on an average peach tree?
Oh yeah, the trees don't last too much over 12 years. 15.
How about these vines?
These vines will probably last forever. No telling. Some of the vines in Germany are 75 years old.
again, is there anything unique or better about this soil than we would find across the river in some of that deep, rich Illinois loam that we see?
No, it's a clay and loam mix, and it's good for drainage. And a lot of the fruit trees like clay soil, so we have
drainage is important for them?
Right, right. We have pretty good luck around here with the peaches and fruit trees.
How about if you have a drought year? Is that a problem?
Well, I had drip irrigation on those, and last year I didn't need it. I took it out, so it would be a problem. But if you run that ripper shank at 2 foot, that water all soaks down in there. And those ones at the farm, there was 1,700 plants over there, and I lost 3.
Okay.
So and last year was hot and dry, one of the worst ones around here.
What would you say your worst enemy is for the grapes?
Probably the bugs.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to keep after those bugs. The Japanese beetle has really gotten bad over here the last few years.
How about for the peach trees?
Yeah, those will be the codling moth, the worms and the peach, and nobody wants a worm with a peach in when you break it open. So.
Okay. Okay. How much land did you just purchase here?
I just bought 1 acre, 1 acre square, and I was able to. My property line is over here, so I was able to put in a circle drive and fence it. So it's really turned out to be a good thing for my winery here.
This circle drive is brand new, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I just put it in a couple weeks ago and poured the gravel on it, and now I got a way out, a way to get my grapes out.
So between the grapes, the peaches, fixing up the house, putting in the paths, the circle drive,
yep,
and everything else, do you have any spare time, Bobby?
No, I don't. No, I work in the city 2 days, and I'm off 2 days, so I got 2 days to get as much done as I can. A lot of times I'll pick up my material on my way back from work, gasoline for the weed eaters, lawnmowers, diesel fuel for my tractor, nails. I went to Jerseyville one night after work and got the wire for the trellises, and then the day I'm off, I'm ready with all my material.
When you say you work 2 days at the factory and 2 days here, follows on different days of the week oftentimes, sounds like.
Right, I'm on a 12-hour rotation, so I got every other weekend off. So
okay,
that's how it works. You work one weekend and then the next weekend's off.
And the factory job is just to keep you going here.
I'm hoping. But I started out at the factory 15 years ago to get some money so I could build my farming operation. And at that time, later I purchased a store and tried my hand at store ownership, and that didn't really work out. So I sold that and sat at home and watched TV after work for 2 years, and that definitely wasn't working out. So then I thought maybe I'll try the real estate business, and that's when I purchased the old house and decided to make a winery out of it.
Would it be fair to say, Bobby, that 5 or 10 years down the road, if this grew to the point where you no longer needed to have a job in the city, that you give the city job up?
Oh, definitely. Most everybody down there would like to give up the city job and retire to the country. But I'm hoping I can retire before I get too old. And hopefully, I've been thinking maybe another year or two that we get this wine going. This peach wine, I think, is going to catch on. I got all those peach trees over there, and this wine is just great. It's sweet and peach flavored, and as soon as I get the house done, I'm thinking we get this winery going and we'll be in business.
And from what you mentioned before, you see the grape wine business growing even more in relationship to the peach.
Exactly, yes. I planted 2 more acres, and I got 4 acres now, and I'm thinking now it's time. I got my grapes planted and the peach trees are already growing, so now it's time to I'm going to build a shed in back for processing and start lining my tanks up and start with the wine business.
These vines that are right behind us, when would we be picking those grapes?
Those will be in September. Around the first part of September, we'll be out here harvesting those, and then I'll make those into wine just as soon as I pick them.
Just the vines that we're seeing back here, what kind of production would you say?
Last year I got 55 gallon off of these 6 rows. which is basically an overgrown yard, one quarter acre
55 gallons of wine.
wine, right?
Okay, so that basically 55 gallons of grape juice that you start with.
Yeah, there's actually I started with 60 gallons of grape juice, and then you have to let it settle, and then you pump it to another tank after after about a month, and then it's in about a week you've got alcohol after you've put in the yeast.
Well, maybe we shouldn't get into that too much until we go on the inside of the house.
Okay, well, let's have a look.
Let's do that. Well, Bobby, we're now inside the house. This is actually the back side of the house, and from what you mentioned earlier, this part of the house wasn't built, obviously, with the main frame.
No, this was another house they attached to the back of the old house. So there's the original wall, and the door is still here. But this is what they would call a summer kitchen.
Okay.
And this is where the old families would process their meat and things like that in the summertime. And green beans, and can their stuff in their garden.
Well, it's still used for processing food.
Yeah, now we're processing wine. I got peach in those two, and there's some peach over there, and grape, and this is grape, last year's grape. There's apple wine. This is grape wine over here, and I've started...
The white containers?
The white containers, right. And that is some of the wine I bottled up. And there's the squeezer. That's what I put my grapes in here after I pick them, and then they're ran through a crusher destemmer, and then that goes in there, and then this gets turned down.
Crusher destemmer.
Right.
What do you mean by that?
It's like you dump them in, and it takes the stems and pulls them down through it, and the stems go out the front, and the grapes fall out the bottom. Okay. And then you've got, after that, you've got ground up grapes, and then you dump them in here and squeeze the wine out.
On your timeline, when do you think you'd be selling grape wine?
Well, I've got my license for the county license, and I need the state license, and as soon as I get the house up and running, I'll start selling.
So you think that's 2 or 3 years away?
I'd say a couple years. In the meantime, I'll stockpile my wine in the basement and barrel it up.
How about the peach wine?
The peach wine, I'll do the same. I'll barrel it up.
Roughly the same timeline for that?
Yeah, about a couple years.
Is there a difference in the initial processing for the peach wine?
Actually, all wine's about the same. Peach wine, believe it or not, as sweet as those peaches are, you have to add sugar to those to get them to ferment.
And you don't for grapes?
Grapes. On this, this is called a hygrometer, and this is you measure your juice, and this will float. And this is how you measure sugar content. And grape actually is sweet enough to ferment. It's 1.080, and that's about what you need, because you take sugar and you got to convert that to alcohol. So you have to start at a certain level sugar to get a certain level alcohol. So
it is surprising given the sweetness.
You wouldn't think it. Yeah. Yeah. The peaches were 1.030. I had to add a lot of sugar to those big juicy peaches.
What's the bottling process look like then?
Basically, this will be a bottling. This tank has a floating lid, and I'll pump into this, and
that's where the fermenting goes on?
Yeah. Well, I ferment in these right now, but I will ferment in this year. I just bought this, so we'll ferment in that, and then we can bottle out of this.
500 liters.
500 liters. It's my first stainless tank. I've got piping and stuff at home in the garage, so I'm ready to start laying it out.
When you get to the licensing and actually production process, then I assume you'd also be subject to occasional inspections?
Yes.
And what kind of things would they look for then?
Cleanliness of your operation.
Is that state inspectors that come in?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm looking at what I think is the machine that you use for putting in the corks.
That takes the corks out. This is the corker over here. The bottle goes under here, and it puts the cork in.
Okay.
Basically, it fits there, and the cork goes in here, and then you just, and that's how you do it. I usually work on this in the fall or the winter time. The summer's so busy with keeping the fruit trees trimmed and spraying and trying to plant new plantings that this all hasn't been touched since last fall.
Is this the opportunity? I see some cups over there. Sample?
We can sample it if you want. I got some cups over here that are open. What would you like? Some peach wine?
I like the idea of peach wine.
Glowhaven, here we go. We just looked at these in the orchard. And they're a long ways from wine, but you can give this a try if you want.
Okay. I like the peach wine.
That's one thing about being the owner of the orchard and having your own fruit. You want to taste it. You don't want to have a dry wine that has no flavor. I want a peach flavor. Did you notice that peach aroma that came out of there?
Jumps right out of it.
It does, exactly. If I don't taste my own peaches, I don't want to drink it.
Well, I would definitely think there's a market for that someday.
Oh, there is. There's going to be a good market for the peach wine. Hopefully it'll catch on, and I think that'll probably be a big seller.
Well, I think the next thing is for us to move on to the storage, and that would mean
Okay.
we move on to your basement.
Let's go down to the basement. That's my favorite part. That's what made me buy this house.
Okay.
When I seen that stone foundation and the big floor joists, I said, boy, this place is built nice.
Okay. Let's go there.
Okay, let's go.
Well, it's obvious we've made our way down to the cellar. Bob, tell us a little bit about, again, if you reiterate what you had just been talking about, what was it about this cellar that really struck you?
Once I walked down here and looked at the structure of the house with the big beams and the big floor joists, I knew it was built pretty strong. And this is the main beam that holds the 4 rooms upstairs. This runs all the way out underneath that porch that you guys seen at first. And once I seen how well it was built, I knew it looks outside like it's going to fall in, but it's not that bad. It can be fixed.
These posts here, at least this one post looks like that's something you put in yourself?
Yeah, I put this rack in and put these racks in for the barrels. Pretty soon I'm going to take the wine from upstairs and start lining my barrels up, because that end of that house we just looked at is I'm going to tear it off.
So the wine that goes in the barrels is strictly from grapes?
Yes, so far, but I got the peach wine up there, and we're going to bring all the wine down here.
Is some of the peach wine going to go in barrels as well?
Yes, it will.
It looks like most of it so far has gone into the bottle.
That is a hard cider I made. That was my first try a few years ago at winemaking. I made some hard cider, and it turned out really good.
Peach cider or apple cider?
Apple cider. And this is a couple bottles of grape wine. My grandma had some grapes over at her house. She had Concord. And believe it or not, that made some real good wine.
A little bit on the sweeter side?
Yes, we've all probably drank that Mogan David when we were younger.
Oh, yeah.
That's exactly what flavor that's got.
That's communion wine flavor.
Exactly, And
Okay.
it's got a good kick to it.
Where are you getting the barrels?
These came from Jack Daniel's Distillery. These are used barrels. Jack Daniel's Distillery uses them once, and then they have them at different stores to purchase.
I would imagine it's important. I know that part of the curing of a barrel is to char the inside of the barrel.
Sure.
Do they give the wine a little bit different flavor?
It sure does.
Been used for whiskey as well?
Yeah, this is just, I started with some of these barrels, but I've located a place in Cuba, Missouri that makes brand new ones, and I've got an order already started.
Okay, so you would prefer new ones?
New ones. We're going to get new barrels, and we're going to pump that wine you just seen down here. And then there's going to be an alleyway made through here up into my new shed.
Okay.
And we're going to have a shed out in the parking lot. There's going to be that's where I'm going to process. I got to go through about 6 foot of dirt and hook into my shed, and we're going to be able to roll the barrels back and forth here.
And to reiterate, the labor force for all of these projects you keep talking about is who again?
Me. I took out about 8 inches of dirt, or 10 inches from this whole basement. There was a wall right here, but it wasn't holding anything up. It was on this side of the joist. So I took that out, took out 8 inches of dirt and hauled it off, and I'm getting ready to stone the floor. I'm going to bring in some gravel and start laying stone like I did my sidewalk out front.
And this is just the winemaking side of the operation. You've also got some major work obviously in store for you with the house itself.
Right. The house is, this year we spent probably 3 weeks working on a new set of stair steps, and basically that's all we could spare. And then it was time to start pruning the orchard and spraying, and it just leads into one thing leads into another.
So the house has to wait until the late fall.
We'll try it again this year. We'll try it in December again this year.
What's the long-term prospects for the house then?
Basically, I'm going to make a bed and breakfast. It's going to be 2 rooms upstairs. We put in a new set of steps up in the center of the house, and we're going to divide it into 2 rooms, a room on the left and a room on the right, and go from there. When I rewire it, we're going to divide the electricity up. So it's going to be a business here pretty soon. Give it a year or 2.
Where would you actually have the retail part of the operation?
It'll be upstairs, and we'll probably take tours through here and have wine down here, wine sampling down here.
Ah, now I like that idea. And here's
there's some
more
antiques I've been buying. Yeah, there's an antique press and an antique crusher. You turn that, and the grapes go in there, and it crushes them. And that's another style of a crusher.
Okay.
So that's how they used to do it. Put it over top of a barrel and crank the handle.
Well, let's finish off with some more general questions for you. And since it's a little bit cooler down here than it is outside, let's do it here.
Okay.
What do you see for the future, not just for yourself, but for the future of farming in this region?
Well, Calhoun is kind of special. You got all these people coming in, and I like to see more vineyards and more orchards, and that would bring in more people. So, just
more
because
specialty kind of thing.
Right, just because I got a vineyard and a winery, I like to see more. People take a trip. They don't want to just go to one and then go back. They want to go to 4 or 5 and spend a half a day, and that would be more. That would be a lot better.
Now, it certainly has impressed me. You've had 160, then 80 acres of land that stayed in the Wieneke family for generation after generation. What comes after Bobby?
We don't know yet. That's hopefully a long ways down the road. And we're just to see where this vineyard and winery will take us.
I know you're married. You have a couple stepchildren?
I have, right. I have 3 stepchildren and 5 step-grandchildren. And it's just me and my dad on the farm right now. And hopefully maybe they'll come around and start helping.
But right now, are any of the 3 inclined to kind of following you and your dad's footsteps?
That's the way of the country is away from all the farming and the hard work, and you just don't know, you know. It's hard to say.
And your brother, Tony?
Terry.
Terry.
Yes.
He has any kids that might be interested?
No, he has no children either, and I don't know if he might have to come up and help me one of these days.
Okay.
I'll cut him in, I guess.
But from everything you've told us, it would be important to you, emotionally, and your father too, I would think, to keep it in the family line someplace.
Yes, we'll keep it in the Wieneke family or our cousins or something somewhere down the road.
Okay, and for a final question, if somebody did want to go into this line of business, into farming, into the specialty farming that you've gotten into over time, what would your recommendations be?
I'd say start out slow and use the money your extra money, and always work towards a goal. Every day I do something towards the grapes, the winery, the peaches I'm building. I'm thinking I might pick up material on the way home, read books. It's just a constant, what can I do next? What can I do next? I've got, another step to go, and plant more grapes, build a shed. If I can trade some of my machinery off for maybe orchard tractor or something I can use towards this whole operation, that's what I'm heading for.
And it looks to me like you've been very careful not to get yourself leveraged with a lot of debt in the
Exactly. That store I had, I learned a lot of valuable lessons. I learned not to go in too deep a debt. And another thing that's most people don't do is, if you stick with something, don't be afraid to up and change. Don't be afraid to sell something you've been working with for 4 or 5 years, and you got your heart into it. Don't be afraid to say, that's it. I can't make no money. I can see the future. Don't be afraid to step away and try something different.
Well, I think that's very good advice to give to anybody.
Yeah, that's what I found. Don't be afraid to, don't go down with the ship, basically. Try something different, and the next time around you'll be smarter. You'll know not to borrow too heavy, And those payments will kill you. You know, trying to make the payment and then you can't add to your operation.
Yeah.
Keep everything paid off, and your extra money, just start building another acre of grapes, and the next year you got 2 acres and 3, and go to auctions and pick up equipment or whatever, you know, that'll pertain to your operation and help you.
Well, I wish you the best of luck. I'd love to be able to come back in about 5 or 10 years, bring the family, and
Okay.
sit down someplace and enjoy some wine, a little bit of grape wine and peach
Yeah.
wine. It's been a lot of fun today talking to you,
Okay.
Bobby, and hearing about your vision and hearing
Right.
about and seeing what hard work can, where it can get you.
Yeah, you got to stick with it, and every day do something towards your goal. And finally, you know, you can't look at 1,000 peach trees and say, man, I got too much work. You got to get out there and knock out 1 and 2 and knock out 10, and the next thing you know, you're done. You can't be get scared.
Great. Any final words for us?
No, I'm gonna take this winery. I'm gonna take it, see how far I can actually go with this.
That'll be a lot of fun,
I've
along
got
with the hard work.
I've got not much invested, a lot of hard work, and we're just gonna see where it goes.
A day like today, you can honestly say you've got sweat equity. in place.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bobby. It's been a blast to talk to you.
All righty. Thank you.